Welcome to my site, everybody. My name is Paul Smyers. I'm a practicing real estate agent in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley, Virginia, near Waynesboro. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about mobile homes. I know it's a subject that is avoided many times, and in the real estate business, we encounter them depending on where you're working. In the rural areas, you're definitely going to encounter mobile homes. And there's a lot of people who live in them successfully for many, many years, and that's what they can afford or whatever, and maybe they're elderly and they just don't want to move somewhere. But the mobile homes do provide housing for really literally millions of people in this country. So I want to talk a little bit about them. Now, I had an experience many years ago where I actually lived in a mobile home for about 8 years. So I know a little bit about them. And I've also sold some in the past. And one of the things that you'll find about mobile homes in the countryside that although there are mobile home parks, and where you see the ones that are kind of an eyesore, there's maybe 20 of them, and everyone has a little small lot and everything. That's not the kind of situation I'm talking about when it talks about mobile homes. Although people do live in them, and that's what they can afford, so they do, and they're very low maintenance. But I want to talk about the homes that I see that are occupying some really nice land, because out in rural areas, families will own land sometimes for a long, long time, and little by little, maybe they give some land to one of their grandchildren or so on, and maybe they carve a little bit of 5 acres or something, and then they put a simple home there. And for a long time, that's what people could afford. They just say, okay, I can get a mobile home. They'll finance it for me. I'll bring it over here and set it up and everything, and at least I have a home. And it's an interesting thing now because a lot of people, especially young people, I have children, 40s and late 30s, and it's hard to find housing for yourself. I mean, it's really difficult. So one of the things I want people to look at a little bit more closely is if you're in the market for a home and you want to go live in the country and you just can't quite swing one of those long-term 30-year mortgages or something, consider a mobile home on its own land. And there's ways that it can happen. One thing is that if someone wants to sell their mobile home, they have a little dilemma because the banks really don't want to finance them. So a lot of times the people actually own outright the mobile home and the land that they're on, and maybe they've lived there for a long time. They may even be elderly, and they just live there until they pass away. The thing is, the mobile home, they can't really sell it without a cash buyer. So even though it may be a clean, beautiful mobile home on a beautiful piece of land, they're not going to get bank financing typically. Now, one thing that a mobile home owner might do, if it's on its own land and they own it, they may be able to finance a note for a buyer, a qualified buyer. It's worth approaching someone in a situation. If you see a mobile home being advertised on Craigslist or something and for sale by owner, and they're just not going to hook up with a realtor. So you can call them and see if you can negotiate something. You say, look, I got a great job, and here's my plan. I'm going to put down like 30%, and then you finance me we'll put the mortgage for a 10-year mortgage, but I'll pay it off in 3. It can work for both parties if you come to that kind of solution, a win-win situation with the financing. Now, if you have a cash and you can afford to do that, that presents some real great opportunities, because a lot of times the people will sell happily for cash, and then you got a home. And one of the things that you can do out in the rural areas, if you have the right zoning, you might be able to just live in that mobile home for a while and then build a second home. This is done all the time. I see it all the time. I was driving around today. You see the mobile home is there. Little by little, they finally built a nice big house in the back of the lot there, and now they have that. They have the little mobile home still available. They can rent it out or whatever. But they did the two-step sort of thing. So that is a very, very possible thing. If you're moving out to the countryside from, say, in a big city or a big suburb or something, maybe Columbus, Ohio, or one of those big cities, if you're coming out in the countryside and you have a little cash, there are really great opportunities. I mean, I actually saw one a few years ago. I had 13 acres and a mobile home. It went for $135,000. And on 13 acres, you could put 4 or 5 other homes. You can have all kinds of stuff going on 13 acres, you see, and it's $10,000 an acre just for the land, you see. So what I'm saying is, if you have any inkling of trying to get out into the market, maybe you can buy a mobile home, get your foot in the door, get that two-step situation going on where you buy the mobile home for cash, and a single wide mobile home is easily to move. There are people out in the countryside with the big trucks. They'll just take it away for free. You just say, okay, you can have it. Okay, and sometimes if it's a decent shape, they might even pay you some money for it. So have that opportunity in mind when you go out and look in the countryside. And I'm going to make another video about the kind of stuff that you see out in the countryside that you won't see in the typical suburb or cul-de-sac kind of place. But it's kind of humorous, the stuff that you find out in the countryside. But regarding mobile homes, the condition, there are various gradations of the mobile home starting in the late 40s, 50s. I mean, those kind of ones are pretty much gone. If you find something in the 60s in good condition, one single wide, people might have taken care of them and so on, and they might be acceptable. But that's not your final home. That's the whole strategy. You get a home that you can live in for 3 years, say, and if you just have to throw it away after that, fine. But you might be able to sell it or keep renting it to somebody. But if you just get your foot in the door on a piece of land with a decent quality mobile home on a beautiful piece of land with views and so on, it's really going to be great. So I'm very enthusiastic about the opportunity that is available to people out in the countryside if they don't have a lot of money, Maybe you got a job and you got cash, you've saved up some cash, and one of the things that you need to buy with your cash is a home. And consider the mobile home as an option. There are companies who will build a double wide. That's a whole other subject, by the way. The double wides, they come into a different kind of category because they're really hard to move. And the same kind of financing issues come up with a double wide as a single wide. I would recommend, if you could find a single wide on a nice piece of land with some infrastructure there that you can live in for a few years, and what happens to it after that, it doesn't matter. As long as you have a home for a few years, you can save up some money because it's going to be a low-cost kind of situation. So look for the newer ones. Just go inspect it. There are homes, honestly, some of the ones I've walked into, I sold one a number of years ago. I mean, it looked like a regular home inside. It was only 2 years old, beautiful, had a little bay window by the kitchen and everything, 2-acre lot by a stream and a horse farm. Very delightful. So, again, mobile homes are an option. I know that they are not very popular in general real estate jargon. We don't really talk about the mobile homes very much, but in the countryside you will see a lot of them, and it's just something to consider. So I hope you enjoy some of my other content. I talk about various ways to get into housing. There's a lot of young people these days and elderly people who don't have a lot of money, and they want to find some place to just basically park themselves in a delightful area. Basically, a mobile home typically is a low maintenance item. It doesn't cost much to maintain them. They have simple plumbing, simple electricity, and if you find one with its own land and sheds and maybe even a barn or fencing and so on, you're gold, you see. So again, mobile homes are an option for some people as a step into the housing market, and if you buy one, then you can step up and buy another property somewhere, then you can rent that one out. So there's an investment potential also if you own a mobile home. If you buy it for cash for $75,000 and you can rent it out for $1,000 a month, you see, there's a lot of investment opportunity with mobile homes as well. So thanks again for listening. I hope you will watch some of my other content and like and share if you. Thanks.